and with that,
Mm.
we are not live, but I guess we are. We are recording. Let's check the volume here as well. I think I can just right click here. Yep. Okay. It's been an eventful year, I guess, ultimate wise. Uh,
Uh-huh.
like,
How was
yeah,
how was the Switch?
the Switch. I think the Switch
Yes.
was glorious. Um,
Okay.
there was a lot of participation. Now, this is from Marty's perspective, I'd say.
Yeah.
Um, they had more than enough guys to fill two teams. Only sent
Okay.
one team to nationals. They wanted to um, just send one team to focus on, if I remember correctly. The
Uh-huh.
Mockies also didn't have enough women to field a full team, but they picked up with another team. Uh,
Mm.
and then they also competed at the Open and Women's Nationals, first half
Good.
of the year. And in
Okay.
general, now the mileage may vary depending on who you ask. I think if you ask
Uh,
the Maltese people, the switch was great.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think if you ask the Cape Town scene, they probably I'm not sure what UCT did, and maybe you have some information, but maybe UCT just kept on training for mixed because they did not send a team to the Opens and Women's Nationals. They also didn't have a women's team to go compete there. Um,
Mm.
so they kind of took a sabbatical, or maybe they had an off season for the first half of
Uh-huh.
the year because logistically things might not have been working out for them. Uh,
Uh,
what was your
well,
expectation, or what would you have thought or expected the change of seasons would have brought to the scene in general? Like, sure, initially maybe some disruptions, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, we're not gonna know for a couple of years, I don't think, if it's
okay.
effective or not.
Hmm.
But the hope, I think the thinking when we passed it last year was that basically women would start playing at university in women's instead of in mixed, and that retainment then would be better. So that you could kind of train genders separately at the start of the year and pick up kind of in maybe a place that's more comfortable or more familiar if you're coming from another sport. And then and once you're kind of familiar with the sport, then transition to playing mixed. Now, my guess with the Cape Town teams that I think wouldn't happen, and you can tell me if this did happen,
Hmm.
with some of the because there's probably a lot of players who only played mixed, and so they just ended up taking like a year and a half off, or because they're like, I'm not gonna play the open season, and because we had two back to back, they just had to wait until mixed season started again a full year later.
Yes.
So
But,
and then
so
they came out and
yeah.
they probably play very good, and then they were upset and they were like, "Well, I'm bad now because we made the switch, and it's your fault that I didn't play Ultimate for a year."
Counter argument to anyone who might
Yes.
say that
Uh-huh.
Nick Z did an amazing job at running pickup and like casual tournaments and like leagues
Yes.
throughout the year. So even though there was an open season, there was still a mixed,
Uh-huh.
just like pickup at league happening on like evenings.
Yeah.
So it's not
Yeah.
like there wasn't any ultimate that you couldn't play. But
Uh-huh.
also, do you remember during the AGM when there were very vocal opponents to say, but where's the data? That'll say, how can you know swapping the seasons will be better? Um,
Uh-huh.
and then, if I remember correctly, we said, well, Ultimate hasn't really grown in South Africa, so is mixed, actually the better thing to do in the country. First and second, we don't know. We've never had it the other way, so let's see.
Yeah, we have no idea.
Yes, and there was never any. of the proposal, there was never any part that said, okay, we will be trialing or implementing this thing, and with the caveat that after 1 year, we'll have all the data ready. The proposal just was
Yeah.
swapping the seasons, and there's no other
Uh-huh.
prerequisites or requirements. But that did not prevent
Yeah, yeah.
people during the recently held SAFTA AGM
Mm.
to say, well, where's the data? We need the hard numbers. How can we prove that the swapping of the seasons were better? And I was like, well,
Mm.
Travis hit them with it. Well, we have more players than last year sign up to
Uh-huh.
SAFTA. And not only that, there's more female players that came and registered at the SAFTA level. Now, that wasn't enough.
So
That was
after one
enough.
year,
No, no, so,
after I
yeah,
was like, after 5 years, maybe we'll see. After 1 year, we've seen a difference, and then people are like,
no,
swap it back.
yeah, swap it back. This is how can you conflate because Pfizer has been doing amazing development things, and you can't conflate all the things that's been happening development outside of SAFTA with just the swapping over of the seasons. Um, but so,
But
uh,
did you ask the universities? Because that's where the develop like we all know
mhm. So I
everyone starts
during the
playing Ultimate
SAFTA
University.
AGM,
Yeah.
I said now this is some anecdotal evidence, but from my perception. The swapping over of
Uh-huh.
the season has been a boon for the Marty's program, and
Mm-hmm.
just the number of people that have actually come and stayed and played has grown tremendously with the swapping over of seasons. And I think there was like three positive emojis from people at other universities, not at Marty's, being like, "Oh, that's great to hear." So anecdotally, I just I throw a lot of sense in chat during those AGMs. Um, so yeah, so
I'm
UCT,
not
I
yeah.
don't know what
I'm
their
not as well
experience
connected. I don't UCT, let's ignore them for a second. Every other university I've heard from has said the swapping of the scenes was a huge success.
was. Yeah. So but there's still a small vocal minority that is really
For
upset
sure.
about the swapping of the seasons. Um,
Good.
and
They
I
can
feel
start
for them.
broadcasting.
You know, I feel for them. They've had a comfortable way of not really the scene kind of being stagnant and then kind of having a place in the scene, and it's safe. And now things are swapping over. You have these new athletic kids at Marty's just running roughshod over some UCT alumni, some Cape Town teams, and no one knows what
The
what to do what to do about it. Everyone's upset. Um, now, to,
people want to
can
make it to the top and then change nothing so that they stay there.
but so is it fair to assume that in the 1 year where we swap the seasons around, Marty's goes
Yes.
and performs the best that the Marty's team has historically ever performed. Can we
Yeah.
attribute that to the seasons being swapped? Now we'll never know how strong this Marty's team is compared to the COVID Marty's team that was gearing up to do many damages. Um, because it technically the COVID killed that year of competitive frisbee.
Feel that. But hey, I think
I would
I think
argue.
Mati was already on
Uh-huh.
the ascent, and then the season swap boosted that.
Mm,
Um, but I think they were already trending in a pretty good direction.
yeah,
I
no,
think it helped the women's program tremendously. I think it did assist the men's program as well. But
no.
it yeah.
Anecdotally, again, on assisting the women's program, when I
Yeah.
joined the Marty's training in the second half of the year, and
Uh-huh.
I kind of had let's say, not the opens mindset in China, but I saw what happened during the opens practices. I came from a
Hmm.
long period of just playing men's ultimate.
Yeah,
So let's just say I wasn't as sensitive to the team vibe that was being fostered in the mixed scene in general.
yeah.
Ran my mouth as I usually
Yes.
do, And that was not well received. No, I don't think
Right.
I said
Uh-huh.
anything particularly mean-spirited or like maybe shouting at people. I just had misaligned, uh, let's
Mhm.
say, expectations of what the team vibe was, and I didn't check in. That it was my bad. Ended up apologizing to the female players on the team. But then, so just as an anecdote, and that they were already training for quite a while. This was like halfway into the mixed season. And the presence of one guy effectively soured the grapes. Now imagine you're brand new to the sport, you haven't really even gone through a season of women, and then you meet
Yeah.
some idiot like myself, and he
Uh-huh.
just says something, and you're like, "Well, I'm not committed to this. I've got no investment. This is not a space I want to find myself in. I'll just leave."
Uh,
So I think the
yes.
swapping of the seasons um, made it a more forgiving environment for an asset like myself to say the things he's not supposed to say and then have the space to apologize and not like drive people away from the scene immediately. Um,
Yeah, the roots kind of grew a little bit deeper.
yes, yes,
A little bit harder to plant. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, to be completely fair, it's been since that COVID season that got canceled that I've played mixed. I've been on a mixed team, which I
I,
have thoroughly enjoyed, and I
yes,
have become a significantly better person due to my lack of playing mixed frisbee.
that's
Oh,
that, now. Do you think that would extend to everyone else out there, Marco? Do you think everyone will become a better person if they would just stop playing mixed? Do you think?
no, no. I one of the things I love about the US structure for Ultimate is that all three happen at the same time, and there's like very clear there's opens players, there's women's players, and there's mixed players. Um, and some guys are like, "Yeah, I'm not an opens player," and I was like, "I agree. Go play mixed." And there's a lot of guys who are like, "I do not play mixed." And I'm with you, brother. Let's start yelling at each other on the opens field. That is my happy place. That's where I thrive. We're just screaming at each other out there. Toxic masculinity, whatever you want to call it. Competitive vibes. Yeah, if that's too intense for you, no problem. I'll
Oh,
see
Steph.
your games across the fields at sectionals. I'll wave. I'll go, look, it's the mixed players. I don't play.
Mm, mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're not quite there in South Africa yet. Um,
no, but that's
it's
okay.
yes, that's okay. I think we're moving there. But so even though uh, Ultimate grew SAFTA wise with
Uh,
more players signing up for
yes.
SAFTA, which means that they probably played in some national somewhere because you don't need to be a SAFTA member if
Uh,
you're not going to nationals somewhere. So
yeah,
the
yeah.
participation at the competitive level has increased. There's probably a lot of more grassroots um, participation that we aren't aware of. People running pickups, people running things that don't require SAP sign up.
Uh-huh.
On the flip side, though, CTFDA went backwards with regards to their player numbers. But
Well, did
so
we have we built the dream? Have we built the wall yet? And we completely disassociated from CTFDA
I think it's getting
and
close.
created
But it they're
yes.
moving in the opposite direction. Where now did you? Oh, you weren't part of the CTFDA. Um,
No, no, no.
okay, so Yuan put a
Yes.
proposal forward to
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think the motivation was that CTFDA nearly went dormant
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
But he said Stellenbosch is getting the short end of the stick with regarding to fixtures, everything.
No shit.
Um,
Yeah.
But that wasn't necessarily like the main drive for the proposal, but it was part of it. Like, you can go read the
Yeah,
proposal
yeah.
if you really wanted to. And the
Uh-huh.
proposal put forward is like we've got five big clubs in the Cape Town area: got Coast, Marties, UCT, Chile, Legends, and Heat, but they kind of form one club. And then there's
Yeah.
Nomad,
They want club for them. Yeah.
forms Nomad, Mutiny, but the overlap between those clubs, Chile
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of covers everything.
Uh-huh.
So between the five clubs, on a rotational basis, you need to have two people on the CTFDA committee. And
Uh-huh.
depending on which club gets the like which position, that rotates on a yearly basis. But at least then you have two people from every club, so everyone's interests are kind of aligned during the CTFDA things. It's not just like people in Cape
Yes.
Town
Uh-huh.
running the show for the entire region.
Yeah.
And then the clever thing I think about that
Uh-huh.
proposal was so it was going to have to be the vote, and then people were
Yeah.
like, no, no, no. So should the new committee decide on this? And then Paul was like, no, no, no. Listen, we either pass this proposal, and
Uh-huh.
then we have until end of December to put forward your candidates for CTFDA, or we vote right now and we nominate people here,
Yeah.
which no one wants. No one wants to do that. No one wants to be like, oh yeah, I'll be on CTFDA. Um, if the outgoing
Uh-huh.
chair was like, I can't believe you guys made me do this for an entire year and I need to be chair for another month. This is ridiculous. How did you look into
Uh-huh.
doing this? So, um, so the proposal passed with a landslide. It wasn't like swapping the season 50-50. Ooh, we need to go scrounge
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
No, it's like two-thirds majority. Everyone voted in favor of it. So now
Yeah.
CTFDA is going to have, I think, two people on the committee of the roles. I'm not sure what that'll be. It'll be
Okay.
sorted out. And now effectively the clubs are nominating people as tribute to go and serve on CTFDA. So,
Okay.
but CTFDA went backwards. Um,
Mm.
30 less male players signed up, but that's fine because only three less female players signed up. Was it 28 male
Oh,
players? Yeah, so we lost 31 players registered at CTFDA, but that's fine because the proportionally women grew year on year.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
pointed out during the meeting that no, that's pretty bad overall that we lost 31 players. But
But
depending on who
is
you are.
that for CTFDA sign up specifically?
Yes, only CTFDA sign up
What
specifically.
what do you need CTFDA signups for? Is it just
If you
regionals?
want to play in the league, the like the pickup leagues,
The pickup leagues?
yes,
Okay.
that Nick is
Oh,
organizing. But you don't need to have
you don't
CTFDA
need it,
things to just go play pickup or whatever. Don't even think
but
high
like
school kids are registered.
we shouldn't. Yeah. I mean, if we really wanted to count Cape Town players, we got to include like people who are just playing pickup at UCT and people who are just
Yes,
playing pickup at Stellenbosch.
yeah,
So
people
you
just
got to
playing
include
racing.
like whatever the UCT, yeah,
Hmm.
fee is. And I don't know if there's a fee to play at Stellenbosch still, or if it
I
would be
I
like
think
a
there is like oh just
yeah,
playing
because
pickup. I'm not sure.
not just pickup, but I yeah,
If
like
you
you
want
have
to play
like res
competitive,
leagues.
I think you need to join the club or something.
Yeah,
They will form somewhere.
I know there. I know we convinced. I had like a separate sign up at some point, so there was like the full on competitive form um, that you had to pay for the club and then whatever. But then there was also like we set up like a res league specific one that was like 100 rand a year.
Could probably find it, but that I think that probably is still. I remember paying member fees this year. Uh,
Yeah.
that probably seems legit. Yeah, so Cape Town Ultimate's been not or didn't go dormant. SAFTA is nearly a registered NPO. And
Okay.
until that happens, you can't get user approval anyway. So even though, let's say, there was a tournament held last year, years prior,
Yeah.
it made a difference because they didn't exist in the eyes of
Yeah.
the like Department of
Mm.
what is it, sports and culture.
Uh-huh.
CTFTA I think is going a different route. They're not being an NPO. I think they're just registering as a business, like straight up because it's easier to be an
Okay.
actual vendor because
It is
UCT
easier to
and
be a business.
yeah, UCT,
Yeah.
UCT and Marty's can't pay CTFDA. um, because of the vendor
Yes.
agreement, because they aren't
Oh,
originally.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why I always paid CTFDA.
Hmm.
Which was that's how we kept beating UCT to payment stuff, because UCT would have to figure out some back way to pay everyone, and I just straight up pay CTFDA. And they're like, but this didn't come from Monty's. I was like, we were in the tournament.
That doesn't
need that.
matter.
You need to pay us by tonight. Done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good try.
Yeah. Oh dear. Mm. Yeah, so that's more or less that's been happening. Um,
Mm.
in the South African.
I'm glad Johan is a significantly better person than I am, because I'm glad I'm glad that good people are now in charge of Monty's, because I was just straight up like, we leave CTFDA. We start our own.
It's not that. Yeah. Um.
Build the wall.
So practically, how would that work though? What's the benefit of building the wall and splitting off, creating your
The
own?
benefit would be, well, one, when the seasons were still the other direction, is
Yes.
we could just play opens basically year round.
Okay.
Because the hope was basically res league teams become good enough to basically just play against.
Yeah.
Either,
That's still the final was pretty good. Well
yeah,
contested between Inter. Uh,
it's improved significantly. Um, Now that like we have some res league players who played kind of like 2 or 3 years.
yes.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Man, the big barrier to entry for any this sport is still learning how to throw the frisbee.
Yes.
Not a very intuitive thing. It's like you've only been
No.
playing with balls your entire life. You
Yeah.
have read through mechanics. Um, yeah, school
Yes.
development has also been going pretty decently. Future has been
Good.
doing good things. Um, there was I think there was a high school kid playing in the finals this year for
Mm,
Heat, which is Heat. Um,
okay.
that girl that sourced beyond in the ultimate vehicle,
Oh,
the other
right.
sister.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
no, she was. I think she was playing in the finals, taking some names. But again, donkeys. Um, donkeys still just demolished everyone.
I watched Donkeys just curb stomp people. I think it was Nomads in the final, or
It
yeah,
was Heat. It was Heat.
was it Heat? It
Nomad
was Heat.
lost
Yeah, just
two Marties for
curb
that.
stomp Heat.
Um, so
Yeah.
I had a bit of a chat with Cam
Mm,
about
yeah.
why donkeys is so dominant, and we came to the conclusion that they're just playing opens in a mixed scene. Um,
Obviously, I watched the final.
would you say our assessment was fairly accurate
Yeah, yeah.
in that regard?
I mean, to be fair, the teams that win nationals here in mixed are just playing opens. But it's a universal concept.
Okay, but hey, at least in mixed we're more competitive than we are in women's. Well, they are purportedly in women's, which I still don't believe. I still don't buy that. But for the first half of the year, um,
Uh-huh.
it's the women's that's what I like about the seasons being swapped. Um,
Yes.
is there's no shared responsibility between men and women to get women to come play during the first half of the year. Um, if
Yes.
if the women want to play for the first half of the year now, it's you need to go find other women. And if you can't do that
Mm,
for whatever reason, that's it's kind of your problem. Um, which I think was a lot of the frustration in the past. And I think we're rehashing a lot of things we have already said. Um, but I think it's been made evident this year. Um,
mhm.
now, so one could argue that we need more data. Um,
Yeah.
and to be fair, in CTFDA registration, we lost 28 male players. Um,
Mhm.
but we only lost three. women players. So maybe women are better at recruiting women for the first half of the year. Um,
Maybe.
but time will
I,
tell how destructive this
yes.
swapping of the seasons was. And during the CT or the SAFTA agent, the questions were again, well, who's going to record the data to see how effective the swap is? Travis said, well, this was kind of like a 5 year thing. People admit, no, we need the data
Yeah.
now. We need the data now.
Yes.
But then I asked,
Uh,
but where's the data regarding what how effective mixed was year on year? Like that happened. Where's the data? How can we say mixed is better? You didn't record the data back then when what because you didn't want to. It wasn't important. So why should it be important to record it now? It's like oh, and then um,
uh-huh.
the one comment was yeah, but we only had like 31% of all SAFTA members voting during the AGM, and then my response to that was democracy moment. Like,
Yeah.
what do you-
Did you guys watch the American election this year? I think we only had like 30% of the country vote.
Yeah, that's
Rest in
if you
peace,
wanna
guys.
if you wanna have a democracy, then you have to be happy when the majority of the people who show up to vote just vote to swap the seasons around. Then I
Yeah.
said, well, I mean, put up a proposal if you want to swap the seasons back and you think that the data is insufficient, just put a proposal and we vote on it again every year. Just vote on it every year if you need to. And then everyone's like, no, maybe next year.
I think
Let's
new plan, genius plan here. We vote on it every 6 months.
every
I want to vote on it exactly every 6 months.
special SAFTA vote happening.
Yes.
Oh,
I
we. Oh no. Looks like the first half of the year opens didn't work. I think we'll need to swap it
think we try
to the
opens
second half
again.
of the year. Play some more
That
opens.
didn't work.
No,
Opens again. Opens one more time.
oh, that was terrible. Oh, no one liked that. We need to swap it again.
Opens again.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh, yeah.
That's my proposal.
Yes. But there's Marco, we are very biased. Do you think there's any way we can get anyone in here that has a mixed perspective? Um,
In here?
yes. Well, I'm gonna take a wild stab at this.
Okay.
I don't know because we this is I'm sure this is great
I'm
for
just wildly toxic now. At this point, it like the scene doesn't affect me at all, and I'm just throwing grenades in there. Someone
um oh
Tam sent me a like screenshot from the AGM of just like a bunch of people who had I think like my name tag
yeah, I was one of
in
them. I was
comments.
one of them.
Or you were
Yeah, it was Marco Dewey's import number. Let me just check here.
American
It will
imports or
still be in
something.
here.
Yeah.
Uh, I am on this server. I
Yeah, yeah.
must have I must have chatted some shit somewhere. There, Marco's American import number 5. That was me.
Perfect.
We had 7 of
Yeah,
them, and then we had a full line. It was lit. Sam Bowden was one of them. Sam, Cam, Jason. We had a lot of we had a lot of boys. I was actually
Jason joined.
Jason was number
Tam.
1. It was Jason, Vian, Cam, Sam, me. And like I mean, listen, I don't want to leak things, but I was like, you
Uh-huh.
could be Marco's import number 5 if you want to just say.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
Jason recruited me to the team.
Jason.
Yes, no, he was.
I'm
Um,
surprised that Jason was a part of this.
he was the instigator. I wonder if I can get Jason. Uh, Jason is also on this group.
Yeah, tell Jason to get on here.
Yeah, I wanna see if I can
Uh,
get Jason. Hey, Jason. I just need to.
I'm not even like planning on bringing a team to.
No, like why would you? There? But the fear, Marco, the
I could. I
potential
guess I
fear.
could.
People are fucking
The problem.
scared.
The problem is, if you had kept the seasons the same, I have a
Yes,
good chance of bringing a team.
yeah.
But because you've swapped them, I've actually blocked myself from
Yeah.
bringing a team. because all of us, including myself, it's like the beginning of the UFA season.
Yeah,
We're all
yeah,
playing. Like none of
yeah.
us
There's
can
no
remember.
shot.
Yeah, like I can't bring the wind chill boys. I can't- like there's a good chance we're playing the wind chill like that weekend. So
Yeah.
it's like I can't.
Oh, okay. Man, why don't I have members? Let me. Oh yeah, I am supposedly a Wild Dogs coach. Um,
Okay.
but my participation has been limited. I'm pretty terrible at coaching. It's mostly Peter Conradi that's coaching the
Uh-huh.
Stellenbosch contingent, and then
Uh-huh.
every now and then, if I'm actually there, I just do
Mhm.
some recordings, go chat to some people, tell people
Yeah,
to
yeah.
stop running because their legs hurt and it's not worth it. Injury is not good. Yo, Jason, what up? Let's see if Jason.
We should let the people know that while we have not been invited back to US Opens yet, we have been invited to apply to be invited to US Opens, which we have done. So for all those who said last year was surely the end,
The end. I was listening.
maybe not. Because
There's
again,
no way. If
again,
if this year wasn't the last year, then surely next year. There's no way.
listen, they know that we will show up.
Regardless of team composition.
We're gonna put 7 people on that line.
There will be a team
There's gonna
with some
be a
South
mutiny
Africans.
team with sprinkle in some South Africans. It's so again, I put chances that you show up if we invite you.
Hey,
0 to 100%,
100%, 100%.
100%.
Ah, that's so. I've received a. Jason has
Mhm.
received my message. I'm not sure if he has the blue tick thing enabled. Uh,
Uh,
but I'll see if I can convince him to hop onto Discord. That's still. I mean, the comment I think you got was maybe just be a bit
yes.
more competitive next time. Which
That was
now,
yes. They were like,
yeah, yeah,
can you be? We were hoping you'd be a little bit more competitive. Now we were a little bit more competitive in the losers bracket,
yes.
which I think they appreciated. Um,
But
to
also,
be fair,
to be fair, Pony got blown out 15-6 at nationals this year. Were they competitive enough to play in the nationals final?
listen, we had moments of we were down 6-8 against Machine,
Yeah, yeah,
and then they decided to start playing.
yeah, yeah.
But
No, it's all
it
to
was
be
really Dig who curb stomped us.
yes. Um,
Yeah.
there were some calls in that big game that facilitated the curb stomping. Fair calls to a certain extent, or some ego calls where Gable got
It
skied
was
by
like,
Brian, and then he was like, no,
yes.
no, unacceptable. No.
Uh-huh. Correct.
But apart from that, look, you know, I
Mhm.
know, based on
Yes.
performance alone, no, we should not even be near US Opens. Like the Australian national team got curb stomped by some club teams in the US. Like that was their national team. They were warming up for Worlds, and
To
they got
be
they made
fair,
it to like the top
last
eight.
last year, other than us, was probably the best US Opens competition-wise they've ever had. Because the other international teams were just straight up national teams
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
from Australia and Canada,
Canada.
who are both very strong ultimate countries.
Yeah,
So it
the
was,
Canada won Masters this year. At Worlds.
yes,
It's been a tightly
yeah.
contested
So
game against the
we
US. Yeah.
we were the only international club team.
Yeah.
Normally,
So
our
of
big competition comes in when we get to play
the four other club
Colombia's
teams.
third team. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The 4 other international club teams, and then we do the big tournament to
Yes.
see who's the least shit of of the shitty countries that have been invited.
Oh, we nearly had greatness against the SoCal Condors. It was close. We were making.
We nearly did. We were making a run.
Yes, but the run was not deep enough. Um,
It's okay. It's okay.
yeah.
Maybe the Sub-Zero boys will come back this year. Now
Did
that they didn't make nationals.
they? Oh, oh yeah.
They didn't
Maybe.
make it to nationals.
Oh no. Oh no, that's not
Jake and
good.
I were talking about this. We were like, our record of getting teams to nationals is still
That's,
elite
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
That's
Raleigh
true.
made it,
Or I'll admit it.
but the Sub-Zero boys
The
didn't
boys,
play for us, and they didn't
yeah,
make it. They
they
didn't
didn't
make
make it. So
it. They didn't make it.
it's
There's still a 1-to-1 correlation. You play for us, you make it to nationals.
nationals. Yes, it's pretty
Yes.
solid there. Uh,
So I think it's
that
pretty
is what
straightforward.
we. I guess that is our selling point. Now, I can't
Yes.
think of someone I can just call. Everyone's offline on Discord. Um,
Uh,
do I just ping everyone on the SAFTA Discord right now? Do I just do that? Am I crazy enough to just send a hey everyone? Does anyone want to burn any social capital they have and chat
uh,
about what happened this year from a mixed perspective? Oh, can I maybe get
sure.
Travis? Can I maybe get Travis? I'm not sure. Hmm. Let's see,
What
Travis.
about Vion? Vion's surely a
Oh,
degenerate.
Vian. Vian.
Vion's
On
life, right?
factors.
Gonna call Vion.
Shit,
See what
that's
happens.
Vian with two A's. Gotta edit that. It's Vian with one A. Can't spell his name wrong. Damn it. No, I mean, people, maybe, look, if you can get anyone at this time,
Yes.
um, let's see, let's see, yawn. See if, yawn, are you awake? What a message to receive. Hey, are you awake? And let's just see, are you awake? What did you mind?
Ask Yonku. He wasn't in South Africa.
Yanku is scared to say
He's in
things
South
that
Africa
would be post.
now.
Is Yanku in South Africa right now
Yeah, yeah.
for holidays? Okay. But I mean, when's the last time Yanku played mixed? We want to get the mixed perspective.
Oh, same as me. Same as me.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yonku and I have retired from mixed.
yes. I mean, I thought I did, and then I thought I could just go and throw discs around the second team, and I ended up not throwing away as many discs as I thought I would
No, I played mixed. I did play mixed with Legends with Yanamon
this year,
at some
start of
point
this year. Well, no, last year. Last year.
last year. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes.
But to be fair, I only threw to Yanamon. So
Okay.
did I play mixed?
No. Um. No, it seems like so. I mean, Vian just not phone not even on. Jason probably asleep. Then I think Yuan also probably asleep.
Maybe
Can't think.
Saturday night. Why are they asleep? Party time.
Listen, it's some people are well. Justin Peach is playing Dota too. Um. See, I'm gonna see if I can call. I
Is Justin Peach still
Yeah, I'm gonna see.
still involved in frisbee?
Yes, he's been coaching up a storm. Um,
Okay.
he's Wild Dogs coach. Um,
Ah, is everyone a Wild Dogs fan? Oh my goodness.
well, basically, yes. Anyone who signed up.
Wow.
Uh, I'm supposed to do some UAP coaching thing. To get a
Uh,
certification to be a Wild Dogs coach, but um,
hmm.
not as invested. If they tell me, oh, Spawn, you can't coach anymore, I'm like, ah, that's okay. Which I mean, that's not. optically very great. Uh, but Peter was like, Peter, it's fine. You should come coach the Wild Dogs, and I'm like, okay, but why? And then I'm like, sure, but if you need me, I'll come assist you. Um, I'm dumb at Discord. How can I? Discord called over there. I'm looking at the wrong window. Um, it should be a add participants thing. Yes, there. Add friends. Oh, I'm just gonna call in Beach. Is this gonna break? Yes. That that did break everything. Um,
It broke everything.
yes, completely. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure. I didn't even think he'll pick up because he's
uh,
deep in the Dota game. And as a Dota enjoyer myself, oh, your
uh-huh.
camera is off again.
Uh,
Um, as a bit of a Dota enjoyer myself, I would not just alt tab and join a call. Um,
I'm too
an uns
too autistic.
yeah, an unsolicited call. This is
Yes.
not something I would just, like. I would just be wildly upset depending on how that Dota game is going. Um, but yeah, okay. So from the US perspective, what
Uh-huh.
happened this year, ultimate wise, on your side? Like, what were the highlights? What were the things you are looking forward to
Where are
next
we
year?
going?
Year
Okay.
in review.
In review.
Yes.
Played mechanics. Uh, was that was awesome. We were terrible. We got pretty much curb stomped by everyone. We'll join the next. Shout out to Peach. Um, so yeah, that was great. Started a team called the Incline here in Colorado Springs, which was fun. We were terrible as well. Took ninth out of 10 at sectionals. So for those of you who know how the U.S. national system works, it goes sectionals, and then top two from sectionals go to regionals, and then top two from regionals go to nationals. So like a 250 team tournament, and everyone ends up ranked, and I think we were ranked like 225 out of 250 or something. So we were bad. Basically, the only game we won was the 9th, 10th playoff game, and they only brought 8 people, and we brought 9.
Now,
Like
how
we
much
look
of your
great.
success do you, or lack of
Uh-huh.
success, do you attribute to not being called the Colorado Ultimate Men?
I 100% of our success. That's for. I was brainstorming some team names with the Detroit boys for my team, and really wanted to be called the Colorado Ultimate Men, or the Cum for short. And the other captain of the team, Jensen, said no, that's wildly inappropriate. And so then I proposed Jensen's Colorado Ultimate Men, um, which became our secret name for the season.
Okay.
Yes, our off the books name. Um, it's good. We have I think we have a good O line. Um, we were actually kind of in every game, but we had no D line, and even if they got the turn, we had no one on the D line who could play offense.
Hmm.
And so I switched to D line at some point during the tournament and just started like ripping deep on the turn and just basically prayed, and it didn't work.
Yet.
But it was a lot of fun. We haven't had Colorado's a super. There's a ton of teams in Colorado. It's a very big ultimate scene in the U.S. Um, a lot of the top players live here, spread out across a couple different teams. And we have a ton of good players in the Springs. We haven't had an Opens team in the Springs for a while, and so our goal this year was just kind of exist, let people know that we're around, and then hopefully we'll get some more people at tryouts next year. Be able to build a little bit off that. So excited about that one. And then after that, signed a 2-year deal with Detroit.
Okay.
So, well, I shouldn't say signed. I replied to an email that said, "Hey, you want to play for 2 more years at Detroit?"
Mhm.
And I said, "Sure." I've been asked to captain the Detroit team with Terry,
Mhm.
so he'll be the defensive captain probably, and I'll be the offensive captain. We had tryouts last weekend, so I was in Detroit for that. So that was fun. I convinced another guy from Colorado Springs to come to tryouts, and he made the team. It'll be nice to have someone to practice with.
Yeah.
And then let's see. Yeah, we should be. It'll be an interesting year. We had a lot more people at the tryouts. Last year we had like 35 people at tryouts for Detroit, and we kept 30 of them, and we were hot garbage. And we had closer to 70 this time, so a much better talent. We should be much more talented this year. We're
Yeah.
getting back Joe Cubit.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
so he's the guy who set most of the records in Detroit over the previous seasons for throwing yards and uh,
And
completions and
did you
whatever.
retain
And
the arm himself?
we retained Felton. So now we got Joe Cubit and the second coming of Joe
Jim
Cubit,
Cooper.
both of whom have set both of whom have set the UFA turnover record. Um, so we're I'm super excited to put them on the same line and see what happens. Or put one on O and one on
Oh,
D, and then
D.
we're just letting things fly.
Give the people what they want.
Oh yeah, I think Detroit is easily the most exciting team to watch.
Look, if if
um,
if the Nationals final this year between
yeah.
Portland, Rhino Slam,
Uh-huh.
and Pony was anything to
Yes.
go off, I think the one
Yes.
YouTube comment was Rhino Slam just went ooga booga throw disc long, and it worked
They
out
did.
for them.
Uh-huh.
Because truck stop is all about the micro ball, little scubas
Yeah.
over the top, and then Rhino Slam is like, what if we go the opposite direction?
Take off.
And just
Yeah,
win.
I'm excited about it. I think UFA play is going to be really interesting this year. They announced a new team.
Ooh,
So Dallas folded, so they're no longer a team. But they've
oh,
added Vegas.
Vegas.
So
Okay.
yes, which will be interesting because there's not really an ultimate scene in Vegas.
Yeah.
Um,
But
Question
there's a
is
lot of
who's going to
gambling,
play for.
so
There
I'm
is a lot
assuming
of
they're
gambling.
getting some funding from
I think they're doing it for money. I may actually go try out for Vegas
somewhere.
in February just to see how that's going. But I was talking to some of the Summit boys today. Um, we're trying to figure out how they're going to redo the divisions
Yeah,
because with Vegas is obviously going to be in the West,
yeah,
um, which puts 8 teams in the West and only 4 in the South.
yeah.
So
It's a bit.
maybe doing some shuffling around. It'll
But
be
I mean,
interesting. I'm excited.
is there a better or more optimal clustering that could occur? Um,
I think probably the most there's a big gap between Colorado is kind of on its own
hmm,
out in this ocean of nothingness. And so is Salt Lake, and so will be Vegas.
yeah, it's like one state across. Um,
Yes.
yeah, it's
The
like one team per state. Nevada,
yes.
Utah,
Yeah,
Colorado.
there's a lot of space. So one of the thoughts is actually moving Colorado to the Central Division and then moving Pittsburgh to the east and then DC to the south. Um,
Oh shit. Okay.
but there's a lot of kind of rivalries that I think people don't want to split up. So like DC, New York,
Hmm,
Colorado, Salt Lake, uh, Pittsburgh would technically be rivals with us, I guess, but no one cares about that one. It's rivals for the bottom of the Central Division.
Someone's got to be there. I,
Someone's
do you
it's
think
us.
there's
It's
any chances of the losers weekend idea taking off? Winner gets to go home during championship weekend. Or are we still taking things
I,
seriously? Are we still professionals?
I think the UFA is still trying to take it seriously. I listen with what they're paying us. I don't know why we're taking this seriously.
You have to.
unless Vegas, unless Vegas is bringing in the money.
But you
But
have
like
to.
Dallas folded because they went 0-12, and it's like, well, maybe
Ah,
they wouldn't have gone 0-12 if all of us who went 0-12 played each other.
yes.
Then only one of us goes 0-12 or
Some of those games were
0-14.
really close, eh?
Some of the Dallas games were close.
Yeah.
I None of our games were close.
Not even the
Even the
one
one we
in
won.
which the one you won, where you won. That was also a bit of a
Yeah,
blow.
we beat them by like 11.
Oh, mm, it's
But yeah, I think our games will be closer this year. I don't know. Um, I hope we win some more. Pittsburgh and Indy are getting worse. A lot of their guys retired.
mm,
Um, but there's a lot of young guys who are really fucking good. So
yeah.
it's pretty hard. The YCC boys are so fucking good. Like,
Yep. Yep.
there's
Yep.
so many of them on like active pro rosters now and making an impact in the league. And they haven't even played college. They're like frisbee here is getting cracked. Like
Mm.
it used to be players started in college and got good by their like last year of college, and now
Now,
they're like getting full on recruited.
the pro teams fresh out of high school.
Yeah,
In high school.
yeah, they're coming straight out of YCC and they have like offers to go play at colleges.
Yeah.
And yeah, these kids are they're like known going into college. They're already good, and then
So the route to being successful is, I'm assuming, televised with a shitload of advertising in between. Like that's where the money is. And I'm
yeah,
speaking under correction, but I'm assuming like any sport, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, uh, how much of
yeah. I mean that's
the profit is actually from ticket attendance in like massive stadiums and things, and how much is just like pure ad revenue being televised.
yeah. I know in American football is like optimized to be on TV in the sense that like you stop play so often you can just spam ads, and the TV deals that they have are ludicrous, like
But I mean,
truly
Ultimate is
$1.
also pretty much optimized because the play
But
stops after every score,
UFA, yeah,
and that's good.
UFA's gone the other way in terms of like because in club it's 90 seconds
Yeah,
basically between
yeah.
points. But in the UFA it's typically close to 30. Um,
Yeah, because you need to
so
get the viewers before you can milk them. If like take it from
yeah, when we
Google,
put
take
that
it from Apple, you need to get the users first, get them on board, and then you start milking. Yeah,
everyone who buys a UFA subscription, like for the most part, is in the league because we don't get them for free. So we all buy our own so that we can like scout
yeah.
and watch.
Hey, Yanku had one. I had one.
Yanku had one. Yeah, yeah. Shout out to Yanku.
Shout out to Yanku. Uh,
But
but in that sense, then, like, sure we can take ourselves seriously, but until we don't have enough viewers watching
yeah,
the sport, there'll never be enough money to really like get a pro scene up and running. Like you have the most athletic guys. Now,
yeah.
is that a problem with the product as a whole? Is it the packaging, or is it just more entertaining to watch basketball? Is it marketing? Like objectively, if you are just the average man on the street and you are presented with watching football, basketball, baseball,
Mm,
Let's even throw soccer into the mix. Like,
yeah.
and then you have frisbee. Which one of those would you watch purely from a spectator enjoyment perspective?
Probably American football. American football is like crack cocaine. Like it's so optimized. It's just like big play, huge hit, huge hit.
Okay.
Yeah, I frisbee. I think frisbee is a terrible sport to watch, especially good frisbee. Um,
Shout out to Grace Olsen. Another boring pass.
yeah, which is why I think the mechanics are the most interesting team to watch because we we play shit frisbee objectively.
Listen, Jake Felton,
But like
electric.
Jake Felton is the people's man. I mean, he's Jake Felton and Joe Cuban are gonna send something up, and it's either gonna be phenomenal or horrific, and both are
You,
fascinating to
Marco, you
watch.
and Jake Felton made it to the top 10 UFA highlights end of the year, like
I
top
saw
10
that. I
best
saw
passes.
that.
You
Yeah,
dialed in a Felton.
the like 90-yard bomb he threw me. Yeah,
Yeah.
It- that was that wasn't my first goal in the UFA. That was my least celebrated goal. I caught it and I was just dying. I
Tearing off
basically
the
just
turf.
ran 100 meters. Yeah. I caught the pole, centered it, and just sprinted. Caught the disc, was like, and they shoved a camera in my face for like this celebration. I was like, shout out to people at home, and you have to like because you only have you have like 20 seconds in between points. So from when I catch it to when we
Yeah.
can signal readiness is 20 seconds. So you still have to run off the field.
Yes.
So I'm like trying
That's
to
another
jog off the
50.
field. Yeah, which is another 50 because we're on the other side. It was bad.
Oh, that's still so big.
I'm glad it made it to the highlights.
Yeah. And Detroit
Like
mechanics
completely unmarked cut
from the end of space into the
from
knee.
the handler's face. Yeah, because my guy was double teaming Felton, and I was like, "Oh, he's not gonna swing, so I might as well."
Yeah. Oh, oh.
But yeah, it was a fun one. That was a
And
fun play.
then how is your general physicality slash how's your body feeling now? Did you do some rehab off season? Like, are you ready to go into another, like, what is it, 16 weeks of uninterrupted flying frisbee?
Interrupted falling. Yeah, I took some time off. I'm playing some volleyball. Um, so like frisbee wise, probably not great shape. Um, I was playing up in Denver against some of the Bravo boys this week and just got hosted by our old boy Felix,
Ah, ah.
who fouled me and then I called him a bitch. But I didn't call the foul. I was just like, that was a pussy move.
Shout out, Felix.
Shout out to Felix.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah, we missed Felix at USOpens.
loved that one. Yeah. Maybe I'll ask him to play for Mutiny next year if he doesn't make Bravo.
Jeez.
That was wildly toxic.
Uh, it look it for me it's fun.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It is
just
fun, but
being
I'm ready to get back in shape. I've been I've been starting since tryouts, working out again.
okay.
Um, yeah, I think I would have burnt out if I just kept working out
No, you can't.
kind of into May. Yeah, but I've been rejuvenated after seeing tryouts. Ready to go again for another season.
Okay. How's Terry's knee doing? Was
He
that
now has the crossover injury on the other knee, so his one knee feels good.
okay?
His other knee doesn't feel good.
Okay. Damn.
He pulled off. Did you see? Did you? Did you see his roster announcement for Detroit this year?
No, 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 I haven't. Is it on Instagram?
Oh, it's on Instagram.
Oh,
Oh,
wait,
coach.
I could probably pull
Uh-huh.
it up right here. Uh,
It's the most Detroit thing of all time.
let's see. Detroit
Yeah,
Mechanic.
pull it up and then I'll tell you the story behind it.
Okay. Uh, 81 game losing streak. So where is it? Hmm. Tryouts now open. Where am I looking? Where am I looking? Oh, I'm not sharing
Just look for
screen, but it'll be
yeah,
so it's
look for a picture of Terry that says like signed.
2 year signing, career signing. Terry Gaither.
Yeah, his lifetime signing Detroit mechanic.
Rest of his career with Detroit Mechanics in UFA. Yeah, okay, okay. Brazilian.
So that comes up on Instagram, right?
Yes,
We
yeah.
all
So
message
it's
that.
current. I'm currently sharing that. Well, it's being screen
Yeah, yeah.
recorded.
Okay, so the people can see it. Okay, so
Yes, yeah.
that comes up. He's the first person announced as rostered for Detroit.
Okay.
Comes up lifetime contract Terry Gaither, Detroit Mechanics. We're all like, so give you some background. Terry's phone broke, so he's like been off the grid for like a month. No one's been able to contact him. And then
Yeah.
out of the blue, we just see lifetime contract Terry Gaither, and we're like, what the fuck, man? What are you doing? Signing a lifetime contract? Like, is this just because you're like 38 and you think like your career's almost over? Like, what's going? So, I call Richie, who's in Indianapolis, and I'm like, drive to Terry's house now. I need to like talk to him.
Yeah. What?
So get Terry on the phone, and I'm like, congratulations, I guess, on the lifetime contract. He's like, what do you mean? And I was like, do you not know? And he's like, I signed for 2 years. And I was like, do you not know? And we posted lifetime contract on Instagram. And he's like, what?
What? Am I gonna die?
Like
What?
everyone's like trying to reach him because they're like, it's the first ever lifetime contract in the UFA. And we're all like, why? Like this is stupid. Why would you sign a lifetime contract?
Yeah.
So we're all calling him. And he didn't know either. He didn't know he signed a lifetime contract either. So we're trying to figure out, was this way of coaches trying to tell him like, yeah, 2 years is the rest of your career?
Terry.
Like what's the plan? But I talked to our coach about it. I talked to Brent and I'm like,
Yeah.
what happened? And he's like, I didn't want Terry to have to worry about anything ever again in his career. So we signed him to the first ever lifetime contract. Pretty big deal. And I was like, it's obviously we're the first ever lifetime contract because no one else is stupid enough to do this. No one else is brain dead enough to, to sign a player to a lifetime deal. So anyway,
I'm
that's
going
where
through
we
the
started off
highlights.
this season.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, watching Terry tearing up the turf here versus
Yeah.
the Winchell boys and the rest of the
Mm.
post. I'm so bummed that we never got that footage from the Winchell of
Oh,
you
what
and
happened?
Noah. I
Yeah.
maybe I should just send Noah a DM again. Uh,
Yeah. ZM again.
just like, hey Noah, uh, where we at? Where we
Of Noah snapping my ankles in 4K.
at? Man,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah. This was 20 weeks ago. Reach out a few days ago. I haven't did it. Yo, Noah. Uh, just, I was just watching some UFA highlights. Uh, and so show Detroit come up. Any do you think there's any chance of that footage still exists somewhere. Let's fill in with the oh, you know, go away Windows thing. Maybe we can send that and then probably I'm gonna need to do some editing. I don't wanna dox everyone's conversations I've had on Instagram. Uh, okay, that's I think kind of taken care of. Okay, so lifetime signed player Terry.
Yes.
First for the
Terry
league.
Gaither,
Wonder why.
first ever lifetime contract.
Yeah. That's hey, look, Detroit's been breaking
So
records
dumb.
and setting up world like firsts. Why not this? Why not? Why not?
So dumb.
Isn't it the most? Not that I really know, but isn't that like the most
Yeah.
Detroit thing ever, though? It's like it's pretty on
Yes.
brand.
Oh yeah, yeah. Exactly. It's the most Detroit move of all time.
Oh,
We love to do like firsts, but not any of the good firsts. Like we're the first team to break a 1,000-day losing streak.
that's can you? I got a reply from Yuan. I think we can
Uh-huh.
get him in here.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Send the link. There's no link. It's a call. Do you have a camera ready? Okay. Um, let's see if I can get you on in here. It was definitely on CTFDA and general. Let's see. Yuan, thank you, Com. This is give me 3 minutes. Okay.
All right. Is this gonna mess it up again?
Yeah, but I just need to add him as a friend first, I guess, and then yes. But so when we call him in, uh, we will. Okay. Oh, wait. Cool. So at least we've got your look. If we to Marco Beach, yes, that's fine. So before we get Johan's perspective, because he'll actually, let's say, he's been participating at Marty's, doing admin and things now for at least this year. Um,
Yeah.
so he'll at least give us the university perspective with regards to how
Yes.
swapping of the seasons went. So that, I mean, it's basically, oh, Johan has accepted my friend request. That was quicker than 3 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna add him here, and it's probably gonna break everything again. Like this. There. One. Okay. Okay, where do I go now? Add. Oh, I don't think it broke.
He's coming.
You.
Oh, chaps.
Oh, hey,
Hello.
Johan. Welcome. Just for full clarity, you are currently being recorded, and you'll probably end up on Two Boys One Disc. So anything you
Do
say,
I do I
yes.
need to
If you
He's
want
a
your
camera
face to be blurred and I'm not sure we can do that thing where we hide your voice, but witness protection vibes. So
yeah.
we've had a bit of a discussion about what SAFTA and then CTFDA and the swapping of the seasons, and we chatted about some UFA things. And now we try to get someone with a different perspective because Marco and I are pretty biased, pretty one voice at least. So the things we say could be you're basically not a fact check, but we want to have your idea or your thoughts regarding what impact the swapping of the seasons had
Okay.
in general for Frisbee in Stellenbosch, Cape Town, South Africa. And please, the floor is yours. Please share your
Mm.
thoughts.
Yeah.
I will. So, I mean, the general consensus is mixed emotions, but personally, looking from a Marty-centric perspective, I think it's done wonders for us. I think we've like the conversation we've had has always been like a lot of people arrive at the university and the sport with a lot of athleticism, and that can be both intimidating for people who, who don't know how to manage that. Being a non-contact sport, all the gents are coming from sports codes that there's a little bit of physicality. So you throw that inherent physicality and the previous sport experiences into a space where you've got both genders busy playing. I imagine previously that was quite, I don't know, how do I put it? Um, Not appealing to women. And I can't speak on behalf of women, but I know at Marty's at least, we had a really good culture that we built with the open squad. And we had time to allow people to get used to the game in a familiar space that they're used to coming out of a high school environment where there were only single sex sports, and then later in the year decide are they going to play in a mixed environment. And we sort of a couple guys that went on tour with us. They played a little bit of mixed and they realized, nah, it's not for them. And like, I mean, each to their own. So I know from a Marty's perspective, it's done us wonders. Whether we'd be where we are if there wasn't a season swap. I mean, my gut tells me I think we wouldn't be as well off as we are. But I mean, I mean, you can't really, yeah, you can't really make those kinds of calls. I know some people are apprehensive towards it. Chatting to the UCT side of things, I think they're very much, they were more pro mix being their main recruitment tool. So for them, there's a sense that they've gone backwards a little bit this past year. Whether it's because of the swap or not is either here nor there. I think it's each club goes through their own cycles. But I mean, personally, I was for this when we voted at the end of last year. I voted for it. And if there were to be a vote now as to whether we keep it, I would vote for it again. And I mean, it's coming from a place where this has benefited my club. I don't know enough to know if the whole country is behind it. But so far, the conversations I've had has been neutral to positive. There's been no real negativity. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Do you want me to expand more? Anything else?
What have you heard outside of UCT from the other universities? Because from the Joburg universities, I've heard kind of overwhelmingly positive things about the swap. They're kind of in the same boat that Matis has been in. Um, but I don't know if you've heard differently or who you've talked to in that regard.
I mean, I've only really engaged UCT. Very much been focusing on charity starts at home this past while. And I mean, remember, I didn't get to make like a network when I played. I played a little bit when you were back there in 2019, and then COVID hit after that, and I took a step back from the sport, and then Anne Pascoe pulled me back in with the Nationals in 2022, and then last year I got back involved again. So I've never really networked further than Cape Town. And then I've met a few people over the past year from different parts of the country. So I can't speak from a personal account what I've heard from the other universities, but uh, through the kind of the woodwork, my understanding is that it's been favorable for universities as a whole on average. And I think given that universities are the current grassroots system that exists, you need to be looking at that and understanding what is necessary there when it comes to retention post
Yeah.
their time at universities. How do you keep them in the sport? And also the sustainability of sport. Until we get massive funders that are assisting us in getting us into schools and making us allowing us to run programs and leagues that are school friendly, your grassroots are currently universities. So neglecting the universities is neglecting the growth and the sustenance of the sport. So I mean, if the overwhelming consensus is the universities are happy, I would stick by it.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I hear I hear you've put together a proposal that's passed.
Mm, mm.
Tell me, I don't know a ton about it. Tell me one what it is, and then two what kind of your like hope for. What's the change you hope to see uh with this
So
proposal?
so when it comes to I think the proposal. for the viewership.
Yes.
Is one that kind of oh yeah, for the fans, for those
Shout out
watching.
to Natalie.
Was looking at existing governance and leadership, and I mean just processes that happen on a regional level, and trying to find like where the gaps were and how we can improve it. I think there's a very different approach you need to take to regional governance than you do have to take into club governance. So the idea there was looking at what has worked with Marty's this past year and
Mhm.
what can we take forward. The reality is that the regional endeavors is a far bigger like pie to eat. Like it's something that's like I wouldn't say is overwhelming, but it's going to take a different approach completely. So the proposal looked at first and foremostly having better representation from the entire region. So it's not a bunch of individuals that are carrying the sport, and it's almost demanding collaborative activities between different clubs to enable the holistic kind of sustenance and growth of the sport. So we need to be a lot more aware that as participants who love playing, we are all responsible going forward. So that was the first to set that tone. It was really important. So the proposal looked at having all five mixed clubs having some representation, and if you have multiple teams, in instead of one representation, two representations on the committee. Um, there's a kind of a lull period for the months of December while clubs deliberate amongst themselves and internally to see who their candidates will be on the committee, and that will be announced end of the year with their first meeting on the 2nd of Jan. But the hope there is firstly to, like what we did with Marty starting 18 months ago, is to start the shift of culture. We can't
Mhm.
keep begging for people to want to take on leadership roles. We need to try to paint leadership roles as an opportunity to contribute. And I think everyone at their heart wants to contribute and pay forward in some capacity. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are put off it because it's extremely, I mean, if you get involved in anything and you're not confident that the entire team is going to contribute and pull their weight, and you know ultimately, at the end of the day, excuse the pun, that you're going to have to carry the weight. No one wants to get
Yeah.
involved in that. And unfortunately, that's becoming a reoccurring reality when it comes to the existing governance structure. So the idea was propose something different, run with it for a year. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, then you know what doesn't work. Because currently, the existing structure isn't working. People are frustrated.
Yeah.
People are fed up. People aren't happy. So
Mhm.
you need to be trying something different. And long term, what it looks like, we don't know. The idea here is just to take this proposal, run with it, audit consistently throughout the year what's working, what's not working, and then from there hope that more people start volunteering to take on these opportunities that align with their respective skill sets, but also interests. There's a couple player Marties that, I mean, all due respect, not the best players, but fantastic when it comes to engaging people. They'd be great as coaches. The
Mhm.
communication skills on the individual level are great. So if people want to start coaching, I mean, that's a natural next step in the sport. You need to be looking at how do you build the sport, and coaching is important. I think part of that slight shift of the culture, looking at how are we able to allow people spaces where they think they'll thrive, because currently the only opportunities are physically playing. And if
Yeah.
they want to get involved in governance, well, that's extremely intimidating because so far it just has not worked out the way it should have worked out.
Mm.
So that leads to just a broken system. And I mean, it's no one's fault except for the collective community. And we collectively as a community just need to come together and fix that. So the opportunity was there. Marty's, I don't know, we've got something right over the last 18 months to get to where we are. And we can't gatekeep that knowledge. That's how I feel. I feel like if we've done something that's worked, throw it into the hat and see if it works for something else. But yeah, that's the idea.
I like it. I always thought because there's so few checks and balances, let's say, in frisbee governance, that it's a little bit intimidating because in some sense you can kind of do whatever you want. Um, like you can swap the seasons or kind of enact some of these things at your own free will almost, and that's intimidating for some people and enticing for others who maybe aren't the right people who should be making those decisions.
Yes,
Like,
no, 100%, 100%. I think that's the paradox of leadership, especially on
yes.
a corporate and capitalistic level. The top dogs are lured in by all the wrong reasons, and I think
Yeah.
that's something that's particularly worse in any NPO or volunteer environment.
Hmm.
My personal experiences in life has been that those involved at the top. not always the cleanest of reasons. And I mean, look, there's some
Yeah.
self-indulgence that happens sometimes. They want to feel like they're contributing and they're
Hmm.
relevant. And I mean, that's just basic human instinct at time. Uh, when it comes to the way forward here of ultimate
Hmm.
frisbee, I think it just
Yeah.
comes down to good people acknowledging who the good people are and then getting them on board. That's, I think it's the only way you can really do it because they're not going to get massive benefactors that pump money into the sport that enable it to grow the way any of the mainstream American sports or European sports have. We've got a completely different thing that all we can do is take the existing models for other sport codes and extrapolate what could work to our unique environment.
Hmm.
So yeah, frisbee governance, and it's funny because I saw Eliza for drinks over lunch this afternoon. We were talking more about CTFDA, and yeah, you can the sense is like you can almost do anything you want, and so that's great information because I step into that space, and then you might want to almost, I mean, maybe what the space needs for the next year is a kind of your chair is a director or a CEO, and they just kind of say this is the vision, contribute. If you disagree, speak now. If you agree, agree. We have our guidelines for the year, and we just act on that, and we go. No discussion throughout the year. No bickering. Just stick to one plan. That's the only way anything happens. And maybe
Yeah.
sometimes, especially in these lull periods, because everything goes through cycles, you just need
Hmm.
one person just call the shots, and if it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't. But at least something happened. So that's the governance does require assessing. What the solution is, I don't know. You just got to try different things.
Yeah.
How?
I think there's a lot of fear in trying different things and it not working. Um, but my argument to that in the kind of South African frisbee sense was like, well, we've been doing the same thing forever, and that's also not working. So we should try something else. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least we're trying.
Yeah, I think in a self-auditing kind of system and process, you're meant to make notes constantly of what works, what doesn't. So the fact that the same thing has happened and it hasn't worked, so to speak, is more an indication of we haven't had the right people step in and excuse my language, drop big dick energy and just get the job done. And sometimes you need those people. You need someone to walk in and just say it as it needs to be said. And
Mm,
look, a lot of the time, people that sit in these committees, they want guidance. They almost want someone to say to them, "Do this," because that's reassuring to them that okay, this person has a vision that I don't necessarily have, but if I buy into their vision, maybe we go somewhere.
mm,
I think anyone calling shots, you've always got to look at them with a bit of toughness and be like, "What's your agenda?" Um,
yeah.
but I think what's unique about our younger generation stepping forward is the agenda is just let's have fun. Let's just like we at Marty's, we talk about the community, not the club. We talk
Mhm,
about we go for drinks after practices and games. We have a very robust and active social community.
mm,
And frisbee is a catalyst that brings us together, which is really important, and it's created a lot of really unique opportunities for people to become friends who would have never met otherwise. And I
mhm.
mean that's enabling and enriching. And I think
Yeah.
those of us who currently are part of Marty's that have shown a bit of interest in CTFDA, that's what we want to give. Like we're all volunteers. I don't get paid for this.
Mm.
I could
Yeah.
walk at any single moment. That's what keeps me grounded in knowing I'm doing this for the right reason. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I like your approach better. Coming Stefan. Um, I was telling Stefan, I thought for a long time running Marty's that we were cutting the short end of the stick in terms of CTFDA, and my kind of vision was let's just leave them. Let's get Resling to a place where they're good enough, and then we can just play each other, and we don't have to do this CTFDA thing. But
With
I
that,
like
Stefan,
your
before,
collaborative approach much better. I think that's a
yeah,
much
no,
healthier
look,
approach.
yeah, you look, you need to like talk has always since we started with this like new approach 18 months ago. It
Yeah.
started with a chat between Cam, Luke, and Nate and I.
Mm.
The first talk was identity, and identity coincides with culture. So
Yeah.
you gotta establish an identity, you gotta establish a culture, and you gotta drive that. I mean, we're talking about socials with UCT. In what world is Martin and UCT going for socials? Like that
We used to
that
get
that's
along.
did we? Okay, well, not even in my time, so I'm not
It's
too.
been a long time. We used to get along when they used to
Okay.
just beat the shit out of us.
Oh, fair enough.
We
Fair
were
enough. Fair
actually
enough.
buddies.
We look. There was I like the audience, and I'm pretty sure people from Cape Town might eventually see this. There were talks about a Cape Wine and
You
Flying Disc Association.
No one will
Yes.
see this ever. No one's watching. Maybe Natalie and her cousins will watch it.
Natalie might see this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
that's pretty
Fair
cool.
enough.
Yeah.
No
But but
one.
but for anyone watching this, like there were
Yeah.
genuine chatter in June, July this year of like why not a Cape Wine and Flying Disc Association.
Yeah.
That's not the way forward, unfortunately. The way forward is disbanding CTFDA and having a Western region Flying Disc Association that encapsulates all of us and represents all of us. Because if you're
Yeah.
talking about growth, the moment you've got your governance system with its title being one city that represents a region that is a quadrant of a whole country, that's never going to represent anyone. So
Mhm.
like that's the process long term is about having those difficult conversations of reconstitute, like redoing the constitution, re-looking at how to do a whole lot of stuff. Like
Mhm.
probably, I mean, it's going to have to happen in the next 5 to 10 years, and it's going to need the right people. And where we're going to find those people, we don't know. But that, if you want to visualize how these things need to play out for the sport
Mhm.
to go to the point where it becomes relevant,
Yeah.
that's the progression. And it's difficult. Might not happen in our lifetimes. It might happen in 5 years' time. Just as long as we keep playing and as long as we keep encouraging retention, I think a lot of people want to talk about recruitment. I think we need to focus more on retention. If a person's already playing the sport and they leave, why did you leave the sport? Like, because
Mhm.
that, like, people don't understand that on a club level, we're facilitating fun. On
Yeah.
a regional level, you are offering a product. So you've got to think about your product, your distribution channels. You've got to think about the ecosystem. Like, you've got to run a business.
Mhm.
We haven't been running a business. We need business-minded people to step into these roles for government. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Stefan,
That's
you had your hand up.
yeah.
Yeah. How long do you think it'll be until there's no open season and mixed season? Because in my mind, that is just terrible. It incentivizes people to overtrain and burn out effectively. Um, at what stage do you think, or how far down the road do we need to go until everything runs in parallel? And is it simply a numbers thing? Like at what stage, like what's
Mm.
the bare minimum requirement or prerequisite to have all three versions of the sport run in parallel with each other so that there's only one frisbee season and there's an off season?
I think it's a numbers game. I genuinely think it just comes down to volume. Um, but to get to that volume, again, you enter the cycle of quality and quantity. You've got to sometimes compromise quality to get better quantity as teams kind of split. And then let's use a team of 14, split 7-7, and each group is responsible for finding 5 to 7 more people for their team. So that's diluting the quality that previously was in the singular team, but you're getting two teams out of that. And eventually, this focuses on we're not making more teams, we're improving the quality of the sport. So we've got to go through multiple repetitions of that on both sides of the nature of the game, where it's opens, women's, and mixed. Get to that. Uh, I I have never even considered that idea because of the fact that we can't even run a regional mixed and women's, sorry, opens and women's league effectively enough for there to be genuine competition, given the limited quantity of teams. But I mean, I don't want to talk about quality. I think we're really good players relative to the rest of the country as well. But you're going to need at least 8 to 10 teams, and you have to sustain 8 to 10 teams that's across an entire year in three different codes. You want 8 to 10 teams at 14 people to 60, or you want bigger squads because people get injured, you rotate. So you're looking at 20 players per team. 20 by 8, let's go 860 times 3. You're looking at 500 active competitive players, and assuming they all pick a certain kind of play and want to stick to that, don't want to mix and match and then move between the year. Given our membership, what was like 130, 40, I glanced over the numbers at the AGM. I
Mhm.
won't
No,
say I know
no,
them exactly. 500 is a far way away.
no, SAFTA's got about 500 people playing nationally or
Yeah.
registered nationally. I think it was 550 or something. Speak under correction.
So, but if you still want to run a regional national tournament, sure, you need to get 8 to 10 teams there, and they'll be coming from different regions within the country. But you still need to have a competitive league present year round for each code in each region for it to be logical to run such a tournament. So, I mean, if you want to do simple maths, 2,000 people then. I'm literally pulling these numbers out of thin air, but we had to try to answer your question. 500 a region, at least 2,000 at least in the country.
But so then, where are those people going to come from? Because word of mouth has kind of not been working for the past 20 years. There's not social capital. People, you meet some people at varsity, and that's you make some friends, and then you go out of there. But no one is actively. There's no tryouts. There's no like. How do you actually bring people to the sport? Because there's like a twofold problem. One is people have never played the sport before. Um, Thinking about things like action netball. Um, at least it's a ball. You don't move your feet, you throw the ball, easy to throw a ball, hard to throw a disc. And Marco might differ on what how easy action netball is. But I'm just thinking of like action cricket. There's a ball, throw the ball, hit the ball with bat, whatever. Um, until like the barrier of entry into disc sport itself seems pretty high.
Mm.
Compared with, I think we've got a marketing problem where we think development is we go into the poorest area we can think imaginable, we go give them some frisbee, and we think we're going to save them from their poverty by teaching them how to throw a frisbee. I think the development focus has been a DEI focus for frisbee, and I think that's at the moment. I don't want to say it's counterproductive, but frisbee is also
Not the most effective, yeah.
it's if you want to play the sport, you have to travel quite a bit. And
Yeah.
there's no funding to travel. And if you want to grow the sport, I maybe it's a not a great statement to make, but let's go for the full cancel myself area. We've got a long history of saying or having wild takes on the podcast. But I think the focus of development has been just missed completely. Um, I don't also think we have a competitive advantage to establish sports, cricket, rugby, tennis, soccer. There's nothing Frisbee can currently offer someone in that situation other than, oh, look at us, we're so great. And because we're such great people and we have spirit of the game, you should waste your time training and traveling far and establishing team playing Frisbee. So I don't, we've got a competitive or comparative disadvantage as well compared to all the other sports. We're not existing in a vacuum. But how do we make Frisbee sexy? How do we get people excited? Like, is there a way in which you can get people excited to try out for the sport and then have actual athletes cross over from other sports into frisbee? Because the scene's been stagnant and there's been no growth. And I've heard anecdotes of athletes coming to a practice somewhere, looking at the athletic ability and how the practices run, and thinking, I'm not going to waste my time here. This is a dead end. Like I don't see myself enjoying this at all. Um, and again, very let's say, I think there's more athleticism and commitment um, that I've seen driving on the N2 into Cape Town, people practicing next to the highway on the N2 soccer, than we have from most of the players in the Cape Town area in terms of their conditioning, their willingness to play, everything. Just so, how do you take someone from that environment where they are so focused, come and drop them into a lukewarm system where it's absolute convenience if we need to drive more than 20 kilometers we say we're not going to play. It's not worth it. That was based on when the water restrictions came in. How do you change the culture to potentially have people traveling to Bloemfontein every second weekend, every third weekend? Thinking of Marco traveling like across the US to go play for the Detroit Mechanics week in week out. How do you get the people to commit? in order to fly to a different part of the country or be willing to fly to a different part of the country on a week in, week out basis to get people committed. Like the level of commitment is, it's not competing with nationals this year, it's in the Eastern Cape, Long Donkeys isn't going to come because it's in the Eastern Cape. Fuck that. And then someone else wins, and everyone's like, well, we won, but I mean, the best team didn't come because it was in the Eastern Cape. Like, oh, nationals this year is in the, like, Free State. I don't want to fly to Free State. I want to fly to Bloemfontein. How do you bridge that? Look, you're not an oracle, but spoke about culture, and intent. Like, how do we start to even chip away? How do we start eating this elephant one bite at a time? Where's the start? And
I mean, trying to solve the existential issues within the sport at 20 past 11 at night
yes,
is a bit rough, but I think it genuinely, we have a saying that is, at Marty's that is 100% my saying, but thankfully half the commas caught on. It's we sell community and we do it with a piece of plastic. And I think that's what's been quite effective is the mindset is that the only thing that's going to ground people initially is a space where they feel that they are invited and enabled. Because I think that is a far more look like you got to when you in my world with marketing and stuff, we look at competitors that aren't actually your direct competitors. So like Coca-Cola looked at one point, who's their competitor in the 90s, and they realized, oh, water is their actual competitor. So what did they do? They started selling water as well to diversify their portfolio. So we've had the occasional chat that looks at the out of the blocks kind of competitor. And I mean, we talk about stuff like church youth groups, and we look at stuff like scouting and foot tracker. So like what is it that people really want in 2024, 2025? And we've realized the most kind of tantalizing thing we can sell is community. It is a sense of identity within a space. And sure, we're not selling commitment to the sport, but the reality is you've got to build momentum from somewhere. The sport has got fantastic in terms of resource barriers, minimal compared to other sports. So that's why I think there's a lot of let's take this into the townships, let's take this somewhere where we have no need for extra kind of resources to get it going. But I think everyone and anyone involved in development, they do it from a place of good-heartedness. So I would never say no to them. And I think we all in agreement that like it can be sometimes more mm, specialized, not even specialized, but more like specific and but more targeted rather than just getting out and doing anything and everything. But start and the implication of them doing it means that they want to do it. So under correct leadership, it just needs a bit of re-guidance. How the sport becomes steady, how you create commitment for it, I think it all starts with the entire community talking about it differently and treating it like it's any other mainstream sport when it comes to the way we practice, the way we play matches, the way and you've got to slowly start embedding those routines and processes and systems into the sport over time. I'm going to need like a focus group of many more people more savvy in the sport than I am to like have that conversation to maybe get to step one, let alone the remaining steps to get to that point. But yeah, I can't give you an easy like a direct answer on that. I think it just starts with us being knowledgeable of who are we trying to attract and how are we going to attract them. I mean, look, if we really want to look at making money, we've got to get in schools and we've got to sell the programs to the parents because those are the people that have the money to really punt into this. And it works with many different youth groups where the reality is they offer a program, but what they're actually offering is a glorified babysitting program, like parents. Get the kids out, keep them busy for a couple hours while you and the missus can have some time to yourself. That's genuinely like if you want to make cash dollar in the sport, you've got to go and get big investment and funding and try and get into your upper market schools very quickly and then start running private coaching programs. And then from there, as money comes in, you reinvest and you just run the cycle like that. Sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, and then from there the program grows. That would be the easiest first step for me in terms of growing the sport financially, which then aids everything else, aids opportunities, because I mean, there's money in the sport, then there's funding. As you said, and if there's funding for people to travel, especially disenfranchised teams or whatnot, I'm not too sure who we'd be funding. But at least there is money. And when you have money, then a conversation can be had about how best to use the money. Right now, there is no money. So step number one for me was getting money from high school parents or primary school parents. Anything to keep the kids busy, to be honest.
Do you think the first step is money in terms of growing the sport in South Africa?
I wouldn't say money, but I would rather shift the word to investment. And I think everyone needs to realize that investment can be both tangible and intangible. And a tangible investment is cash or assets. Intangible investment is people like us um, having conversations, but also being willing to coach pro bono, also being willing to share experiences, also being willing to sit down, acknowledge our strengths, and contribute in that capacity. I'm never going to be able. I can train for 6 months and I won't crack this team. Just don't have the physicality I had when I was 21. What I can do, because of my professional kind of background, is get involved in governance of the sport. So that's how I would look to contribute. And if every single individual adopted that plus one mentality, if you want to play the sport, you get involved in some other thing based on where your strengths are. Well, then I think we're establishing the right cultures that is going to enable things. So investment would be step one, and investment is an extremely broad kind of concept in this case.
I'm so glad that Matis has adopted that. One of the things when I left that I had talked to that next leadership group about was like you have to have an identity as a club. And I'm so glad that that has you've expanded upon that so substantially. It's really cool to like have this conversation with you when I think it was in 2019 you and I sat down in the Nielsen and you proposed the Res League and kind of made that your own, and you've expanded so much since then from just creating a Res League at Stellenbosch to now impacting Ultimate on like the South African country level. um, is really cool to see. So
Thanks, man.
well done, Johan. Well,
Thank you.
it's
Thanks.
awesome to
You know what's
watch.
really you know what's really funny when
Yeah.
Peter proposed the Market Dewey League and he pitched at a committee meeting and I sat there and like obviously everyone else is it's long before their time. And I'm sitting
Yes.
there just biting my lip and I'm like, doesn't I know
It
the true story?
it was you. You
Well,
were
I
the
mean,
one.
look, you're the one. Like, let's be honest here. Let's blow smoke up
Uh-huh.
each other's asses here for a moment.
Okay, okay.
Like you proposed it, and you're the one who put the things out to all the different hardcars, and then my sports hardcore was like, they want to do this, and I'm like, well, I mean, I said I'm prepared to help in sport. It hasn't really happened yet because of, I mean, PSO sports is damn clicky. I couldn't
Uh-huh.
get into the hockey team because half the hockey team was filled with alumni whose mates were still at the university. That was extremely like not demoralizing, but I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
fucking wasting my time here. And so this
Mhm.
came out, and I literally put a random poster together, literally saying, "Do you feel like falling on your face?" And 40 people joined the WhatsApp group within like 3 days. They're like,
Yeah.
"Cool." We had some buy-in because of a little bit of effort in branding, and then I mean, your strength was playing the sport, and then it just was a matter of like, we have all these teams, we're scheduling friendlies. There's enough teams to have a league, and then we just went with it. So I think, but like I could never have done that without you. It's like one of those things.
It was a good use of both of our strengths, I think, because I
Exactly. Yeah.
kind of had I random ideas, and then you were so good at actually implementing them and bringing them to life. And
I can thank
I
scouting for
really
that.
appreciated. I think one of the things that saved me as a leader was basically when you were like, "I want to run Res League." I wasn't like, "I'm gonna micromanage that." I was like, "You do it. Like, tell me how I can support you in basically running that league." But
And I
it's
think
your
that yeah. Look, I mean, it's grown, and I think
yeah.
you and I can now sit and watch the sunset and be like, we had 200 gents, or we had 200 residents playing this year,
Uh,
which is like that's more than
Johan,
what CTFDA has in membership.
yes,
Like we had 140 guys, and then we had 60 ladies. Like
that's
so, I mean,
cool. It's so
like
cool.
it's just where and but it always like you need that first. You need like the penny drop moment where people realize what needs to be done. Then you need the like planning process, the implementation process. And the
Mhm.
reality is then after that, if it deserves to live on, it will live on because people will adopt it and make it their own. Sometimes things don't don't survive. And I think that's something we need to, I mean, it's just basic human beings embrace. Like if it's going to work, it's going to work. If it doesn't, like you can't flog a dead horse and get it to move. So I'm just really grateful that it's that kind of vibe was just, yeah, it just grew. And like we were on Supersport for the finals of the Residence League this year, which is like, that's ridiculous if you consider
It-
where it
yeah,
was 5 years ago. So, yeah.
it's
Ah,
wild.
no, cheers to that.
Cheers to that. But it's changed a lot. I mean, we tried to give people some background. We tried some different things in terms of whether it's going to be full field sevens or 4v4, 5v5, or how are we going to
Well,
do
what
first
I've,
semester versus second semester? And is this going to be mixed or not? And we tried a whole bunch of stuff, and some of it didn't work.
yeah, yeah. Look, I mean,
Okay.
we were talking at one stage about this year even having
Yeah.
half mixed, half single sex opens women's, and it just occurred to us that the point of this league is exposure. You need
Yeah.
to make it as comfortable for everyone as possible. So, what are the existing barriers? Well, one of the barriers is you've got to field 7 people. Well, it's not difficult to field five, but 6 and 7 somehow becomes magically more difficult. So, whatever the
Mhm.
case is, if you have a space kind of issue, a 70 by 20 is far more manageable than 100 by 37. So we could
Mhm.
stack 470 by 20s next to each other on the one field. And then from there, it was just a matter of like, okay, well, guys want to play together. Girls aren't particularly keen to start playing the sport when there's guys involved, especially if they don't know the guys. And I mean, we have a lot of off-season rugby players get involved in the residency. Like they're not aware of their strength.
Oh,
We've bumped shoulders a few times, and like there's a lot of the time where if you do have a small bit of contact, one person's on the floor and another person's walking off, not having realized they brushed them. Um, Put that in a situation where you have a petite lady hit a lock. I mean, that's a broken person, and like that's not good for the sport.
yeah.
So I think what we have, I don't know if I want to say the word regressed to or like just arrived at. Fortunately, is the fact that we have 5v5s, we have single sex, it works, it thrives, it grows, and I think that's something that
Mhm.
CTFDA can look at as one of the barriers to moving people from a social to competitive scene. I personally think that there would be a good space for a second division 5v5 league that exists as secondary to the 7v7 to help smaller groups expand towards establishing a team that participates in that. Because right now it's extreme. Right now it's you've got to field a team of 7. If you can only get 7, you're playing Savage for potentially 100 minutes. No one is really keen on that. And very few people have the fitness to survive that and walk the next day. So you're looking at least 12 to 14 people. And even if you get 12 to 14 people, like that's to keep them in the team coming week in and week out is very difficult. So you end up needing a WhatsApp group of almost 20 to 25 people. So 5v5 league that only needs 10 people is a lot more palatable
Mhm.
and manageable to start with. And I think that's one of our proposals going forward. If we have the human resources to facilitate it, um, that would be very, very like cool to get going because it's just you've got to look at your distribution channels of the sport. We have field issues. Okay, well maybe we can get a 20 by 70 somewhere rather than 100 by 37. And it's small things like that. You've got to look at the 1% that
Yeah.
you can pull for the collective to grow and expand. So we'll see how the next year goes. But I mean, yeah, the Red League is a good show of what starting small can do, which is ironic because you look at all other sports codes at a primary school level and they all start in the same manner. Mini cricket, 7v7 hockey up until grade 5. All these kind of condensed forms of the sport for introduction and incubation periods that then kind of allows people to wet their fingers before being like, oh, wait, I want to play something like I want to play at the level that is recognized as competitive. So I
Mhm.
think that I mean, Stefan, going back to what's the next step, I think that's part of this next step. Is being able to break that barrier. That is, how do we establish a new team? Because you can only build the league and create sustainability if you have enough teams. We have at very best 4 main open teams, 3
Mhm.
women's teams next year, and maybe 6 mixed teams. If one of them comes, if no, well, if Catch 22 or another club like that decide to start again, which is highly unlikely. So 5 mixed teams. You're not you're not running a competitive league with 5 teams, 4 teams, 3 teams. It doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
one of the things I've really loved about being in the US and playing Ultimate is kind of you have club exists kind of outside of like what I'd call like recreational Ultimate. So like the city, Colorado Springs and Denver run these like rec leagues. Um, and it's completely separated from club. So club players still come and play, but it's not taken kind of as seriously or like with the same they're not competing for nationals or anything like that. It's just for fun in the city. And it's always like a hat thing. So you always mix up. But one of the things they do is kind of in each of the 4 seasons of the year, they change what we're playing. So like in the summer, we play sevens. But then in the fall, we play fours. And then in the winter, which is now, we play this variation called Indoor Ultimate, which is my favorite, and it's 5v5 constant subs. So when you score, you just drop the disc, and the other team immediately starts on offense. There's no pull or anything, and you just play for 20 minutes, and you just have kind of a line of people off, and you run and high five one of them, and they come on whenever you want. It's fun because it's just constant play, right? Um, and then we play Ultimate or Double Disc or whatever in the spring. But it keeps it fresh and relaxed because you're playing something new that's not necessarily always 7v7, um, but it's a ton of fun. And so, like you said, I love the like different variations of the game, kind of bringing in a different audience. Some people love Ultimate, um, and not Ultimate. I personally hate Ultimate because I'm terrible at it. But some people love it, and some people love fours, and some people love kind of that indoor rule set and playing on
And I think
characters.
that's what it really comes down to. You need to have a product that appeals to a large variety of individuals that would be interested in participating and subsequently
Mhm.
consuming said product. And I
Yeah,
think that's the way of thinking that's necessary going forward. Like identifying what is our product as a sport. And I mean that's pretty obvious. we play ultimate
yes,
frisbee and there's different variations of it. I think the next challenge, given that we can articulate that, is how do we go about setting up proper distribution channels to expand the sport and to enable one thing that I mean I've slowly over the last 6 months been on a little side quest to try to embed myself in every WhatsApp group of every social pickup in Cape Town, just to
yeah,
observe, just to observe.
uh-huh.
Like I'm like a virus sitting there,
Yes,
not doing anything, just being dormant, but just
uh-huh.
watching and observing what are keeping people from playing back. And it's basically things like somebody on the morning will say 4 p.m. this afternoon, and it's not enough time, and none of them have really set schedules that they keep to. So
Yeah,
they almost need someone to come along and help them with a little bit of more administrative governance and just
mhm.
having a conversation because you can't have a group of 60 people on WhatsApp and then you can't even field a 4v4 on a good day.
Yeah,
It's demoralizing because what it does do is you have a new person join this WhatsApp group of all the enthusiasm in the world and
uh-huh.
see that, oh, wait, no one takes this seriously because I see a ton of people in this group who are not active. And okay, I'm culprit to that now, being a silent observer on all these WhatsApp groups.
Mhm.
But for me, it's a little bit of qualitative data that I'm busy drawing on to try to see like what can we do to help later on.
So, Johan,
And
I'm
so
not
yeah,
seeing you on the Northern Lights WhatsApp group.
I'm not on that.
Does
Look.
does
I said
Northern
I've
Lights
tried
still
to. I've
exist? Is
tried to.
Northern Lights is Northern
Let
Lights
me.
alive?
Yes,
I'm on Somerset
they've
West. I'm
been
on
Northern Lights have been
Rondebosch.
running 3v3 practices. I've been to a couple of them. Um,
Oh,
Northern
fantastic.
Lights is back. Northern Lights
Where's
has
where's
returned.
maybe I should just
Letting
there's
the
a
join them.
community.
cook.
Maybe
You
I should
should.
just
You
go
should
join Northern Lights.
research.
Are,
Make
are,
the
no, are,
resurgence
no,
of Northern Lights.
are Northern Lights mixed or opens or women's?
Uh, they have barely enough people to field mixed at the moment. There's like 6 people sometimes at practice, uh, maximum. I actually invited 2 friends to come and play. Well, the one guy said, "Hey, if you're looking for a sport, have you ever thought about playing some frisbee?" It's like, no, I haven't. played soccer, all the other things. I'm like, oh, you should come to a practice or come to a pickup. And then he came to a pickup, and then he also recruited his wife, and they've now started being one of the more active people on the northern
Like,
thing.
good.
But I haven't been there since inviting them for that one pickup.
Oh
You
my
just
gosh.
invited them and
Yeah,
left.
please.
Said this is your
I
group
think this
now.
is what CTFDA, something I was considering doing when getting involved there is just taking a map, putting pins as to where is
Yeah.
everything in the city, because you've got to
Mm.
expand this web, and this web you need to look at where are the blank spots in the city that need some kind of presence, because over time, if neighboring suburbs have some kind of presence, then the suburbs kind of have a bit of a collaborative effort, like, okay, no, well, we're on these days. And I mean, Stellenbosch is a town that is away from everything else. But I mean, Durbanville and Kenridge are neighbouring suburbs, so it's very easy to move between the two for whatever purpose. So I think identifying where there are those blank spots and slowly looking at, do we have existing members of the community living there that we can assist in establishing something would be great. Again, that comes down to distribution channels, and distribution channels also involves looking at the university's case, who's leaving, where they're going, how are we keeping them in the sport? Because I've had this chat with a couple guys from Marty's Open in particular, and they're keen, they're interested, but one needs to also realize that if they're leaving university, they're stepping into adult life and working life, and that's in of itself quite overwhelming and daunting. So you can't expect them to now take on this responsibility and take on the leadership that is required to establish some kind of pickup in that area. It's quite cool. Someone like Benno is going up to the West Coast, playing up on side because he's got he finished his PGCE and he's a proper teacher now, and he's got a teaching gig up there. And we're like, oh, wait, we'll go up like one weekend and we'll play frisbee with your school or something like that. That's for us as Marty's a little endeavor, like where we're connecting.
Uh-huh.
Like Aiden graduated and he's been responsible for pickup for 3 years, and the Malachi Kingfishers are starting in East London, and he's already on the WhatsApp group. So like, it's really important that each club, you also take responsibility of your players to an extent, because that's taking responsibility of the collective growth and sustenance of the sport. But you've established this intellectual capital. Let's call it that. In the sense that you put time into these people, they've got exposure to the sport. If they're leaving the sport because of a lack of opportunity, that's not their fault. Any governance structure on any national, regional level needs to acknowledge that it's their responsibility to aid opportunity of the sport for these individuals by investing assets, be it tangible, intangible, into those environments and working with people. You can't just say, go do this, go do that, start it up, what do you need? And then be like, cool, good luck. It's not going to work. And if anything, that person's going to leave the sport because they're like, what do you know? Like, no, it's not going to happen. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration. And finding the right formula to do it is not something that's going to just be discovered overnight. It's going to take consistent trial and error until you stumble upon maybe one or two things that works well, and then slowly over time finding out, okay, how many different mechanisms do we have to assist the different unique situations we could encounter to enable that growth. Because I mean, we really need to get to a point where, like, if we can expand into the rest of Boerland, where you have tour days where once a month everyone comes together on a Saturday and you play a couple of games throughout the day. The reality is, given the nature of the sport, we will always have tournaments that will be compacted into a weekend that will demand 2 to 3 games. It's nothing to then expect you have 2 to 3 game days as part of your league structure to mimic that. And that's just the reality of the situation. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that. I know Cape Town like playing on a Monday night, and that's one game. And it's been really great to see Cape Townians on the CTFDA be like, if you guys want to play, like, go to Marty's, there fields. Like, you guys are struggling for fields, they're not. What's your problem? So that shift has been really cool, because it's like, whatever fight there was before my time, and I can't speak for it because I don't understand it. I wasn't involved in those politics. It seems to be slowly dismantling itself to the point where Marty's not only have a seat at the table, they're entitled to lead conversations at the table, which is super cool.
Mm. Yeah, I'm glad that's happening. I had my thought kind of leaving South Africa last year in the frisbee scene was like, we got to find a way to force people on different clubs to basically play together in not necessarily a but like a recreational league, so that 'cause there's so much, I think, animosity between so many of the people in the clubs, and there's just kind of this idea of like, oh, you play for Ghost, so you're X. You play for Monty, so
Mm.
you're automatically whatever. And
Oh yeah, look. Heat. Like some lack of
yeah,
people in Heat that I met at my time at Legends, but like I understand that the club, like they've got this like kind of cold shoulder kind of perception to them, which I mean, if you know any of the people, it's far from it. But like that's just
yeah,
historic.
yeah.
And
The
I think
only
like as much, yeah.
only reason I
So
think Heat and Legends are still part of Chile is because of those fields. If it weren't for those fields, there would have been different clubs years ago. But they
okay.
need to be part of the club because where else are they going to play? They both have a claim to the fields. And I could be wrong, could be completely wrong. But there's a
Yes.
definite divide between those two teams.
Yeah, but I think if there's a lot of good people playing the sport, and not just like good players, but like good
Good people,
individuals, is like
good humans, yeah.
people, yes, good humans that a lot of, I think, other people playing would be friends with if it weren't for the fact that one of them played for Heat and the other one played for Ghost.
The draft league that they introduced,
Yeah.
that happens for a month in the summer and a month in the winter, or 4 or 5 weeks. That has
Yeah.
been very useful, but I also find that it's kind of treated as a warm up for the season and doesn't feel that kind of recreational league vibe that you've allured to. But
Yeah.
again, like something like that, that's nothing that we can't look at as a like I hate the idea of Vision 2030s, but in this case, I mean, we're at 2025 in a week and a bit. Like there's a
Yes.
5 year goal. It's really something that we need to look at. Like, okay, if this is something we think can help us sustain, how do we
Hmm.
build towards it? How do we go from where we are to here? And what does
Yeah.
the steps look like? And I think that's something that as Marty's ultimate, like the com during the past year, we were chatting about like what is like levels that we can get to in the different function areas of the sport that
Hmm.
help us as a cohort progress up the ladder. Because I mean it's one like obviously you're ticking boxes off, but at the same time you need to be able to see where you want to go to have some kind of guidance as to what's next. And that's all that's got to do with how you go about your finances, how we go about competitive play, with the idea that we're bringing in coaches now.
Hmm.
Nathan led coaching interviews on Thursday, which went super well with DC and the Thunder, both looking at taking on the women's and the opens team. And so right now it's just a matter of contracts with the university and sorting out what the stipends and salaries will be. And so
I think
that's
it's
the
big work.
logical next step in coaching, because Nathan and Luca should not have to carry the burden every single
Hmm.
game of trying to assess what's going wrong and adjusting, because it takes away from how they will contribute on the field themselves. Like kudos to them to have the temperament to have done that for as long as they have. But you got to respect they are players. They're at this university to play and enjoy the sport.
Hmm.
Um, there's been a couple players who have taken on leadership roles and they've done damage to them on like a personal, on a psychological, and on a human level, and they've needed to take time away from the sport at our club. I mean, in this
Hmm.
past year, there's a example, but I'll keep his name out of the chat.
Yeah.
And it's just like you look at that and you're like, that shouldn't be happening. How do we put mechanisms in place that enable people to love the sport and never have a moment where they shouldn't be loving it? And so
Hmm.
for them who just want to play, and I mean, they're all looking set to be going to a Wild Dogs campaign in Spain next year. Like you need to allow them to just have fun and play the game without having to look at the technicals and without having to try to assess what needs to happen. Yes, next. Sure, it's good that they can do that as players, but having a coach that takes a burden off, even the idea of having a coach for them would take that burden off. So I think that's progressively like the next step in the competitive scene. When it comes to social media, the quality of your content, timeliness of your content, like all these different facets, you can go atomic habits on them and pull 1% from everywhere that brings the collective up. I think that's what's worked to our success this past year. So for
Yeah.
CTFDA, when it comes to looking at a recreational league, we need to look at what the draft league looks like and how does that organically morph into that if we do decide to adopt something similar. Um,
Yeah.
How that's going to happen is highly dependent on who the 8 candidates are that sit on the cabinet from the beginning of next year. I think so far it's only Saskia, myself, and Marty and Brogan from Ghost who have definitely put their hands up. And Adam and Nick are so far what UCT is currently putting forward, but that's not confirmed yet. Nomad and the Chili clubs. I mean, I'm on the Legends chat group. It doesn't. I haven't seen anything yet, but I might have skipped over the messages where that conversation happened. But we're waiting to hear what happens there. So we'll see. But again, like it depends on the people. If we don't have the right people that are prepared to invest correctly, these things will never happen. And all that's going to end up happening is you have a bunch, 2, 3 people that go end up running for chair, vice chair, and secretary. And in a year's time, they're not in the sport because they become resentful. Like, so we need to sort that culture out first.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited for what's going on from
It's going
over
to be
here.
good.
I'm not in the weeds, but
Look, let's see how the year goes. Maybe the sport needs a dictator for the year. I'm not saying it should, but sometimes you need to look at these things. Also, wasn't it that when Rome was in crisis, they just appointed one person to make all the decisions after for a couple of months, and
yes,
then the guy had to
yes.
step down.
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying
Yeah,
we're Rome, but it's an option.
It's
yeah.
an option.
Yeah.
Rome ended very well, if I remember correctly. They're still going
Uh,
strong.
uh, yeah. I mean, it's still a town, you know.
The Italians are still around.
Yeah,
Anything else
Yeah.
from you, gents?
No, thanks for hopping on and
yeah.
chatting. Um,
This has
much
been, I
appreciated.
think,
I was on my way to bed. It's been a very stimulating
Yeah,
hour.
sorry,
So.
we ruined that.
yeah.
No, don't stress. Don't stress. Just in future, can we do this on a
Mid-afternoon for
Tuesday?
me.
Because I work on Sunday, so I'd like my sleep.
Oh, this.
Well, go.
Yeah, go.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for having me. I
Much
appreciate
appreciated.
the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Cheers,
Yes,
guys.
Yeah,
you as well. Cheers.
there you go. That was,
Enlightening.
yes. No, that whenever I listen to someone else
Yes.
with a different perspective and that can eloquently voice his opinions and his um,
Mm,
way of wanting to go forward in the future, I realize
yeah.
that there are much better people than me just saying, let's just split everything. It's very easy to point out faults or issues. Anyone can identify problems, but finding
Mm,
solutions, working solutions, that's the difficult part.
yes.
Um, my idea was to try and buy ad space, Google Ads. Don't think
Uh-huh.
that did anything because I thought we've got a marketing problem. Like no one even knows the sport exists.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh-huh.
but if you're not, I think, getting in at the grassroots level, uh,
Mm,
I don't think there's any short-term gains to make with regarding recruiting people to play the sport. Like maybe you can get a minimal trickle of, let's say, adult players in. I think we need to
yeah.
start focusing on getting all the varsities as geared up as they can be, removing all the barriers to entries to varsity participation across the country. And once the varsities are sorted out, go down into schools. Whether that is like offering bursaries, if the like university programs are up and running, just get something for people to
Uh-huh.
not play rugby because you're effectively going to want people that are busy playing one of the current sports to stop playing that sport and then playing frisbee, depending on what seasons the sport is running in the school calendar. In order to
Uh-huh.
do that, there needs to be a cultural shift because I mean rugby in South Africa is huge. They've got the Rassi Erasmus, now PhD in, from some university that gave him one. Like culturally,
Yes.
that is like South Africans identify with rugby. Now, I mean, frisbee is a
Yes.
thing you do at the beach.
Uh-huh.
Um, so getting that shift to move, I think we should not think short term anymore. We need to, sure, maybe try get some player retention, as Johan mentioned, short to medium term.
Yeah.
Like at least don't bleed any more players away from the scene. But then medium to long term, focus on growing grassroots and getting it into schools. And I think Johann's well on his way, at least with that focus in mind, from what I've heard he said.
I'm excited about. I'm excited that there's other people who are passionate about making a change. Um, I know we're well connected to Mati, so we know it's happening there, but it sounds like there's happening elsewhere too. And Nick, I think Nick has done a phenomenal job at starting this hat league thing. Um, I modeled some of what we did at Monty's after what he had done at UCT,
Mm,
and talked to him about that. Uh, so hopefully UCT turns it around. I think it's better for the country if they are
yes,
good as well.
yes,
Um, and yeah, and I hope the other universities catch up.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And hopefully, eventually, we get a university only
yes.
national.
I think that's the
Yeah,
next logical step.
right.
Because
Yes,
I think it's dumb still that we have
it's
varsity
dumb.
students play against
Have
people that didn't.
22-year-olds who've been playing for 2 years
Yes,
playing against adults who've been playing for 10.
that's yeah,
And what's funny in South Africa is that a lot of the time the university teams win.
yes.
But
Marcus came third at nationals this year for mixed, which is
yes, there's always some dominant university team. But
yeah.
I mean, that'd be the same now in the US. I would not want to play like Mama Bird
No,
or like I've
Brown.
played some of the Mama Bird boys. Just getting fucking toasted by Nanda McFinn. But
Oh, ah,
yeah,
cool. Marco, thanks for your time. We've
of
been going
course.
for about 2 hours and 11 minutes now.
Excellent.
Um,
Direct upload. No
it's
edits
no
necessary.
edits necessary. I'll do it. I'll do it. Look, I'll do it. I
Natalie's the only one who's gonna watch
probably, yeah. Um,
it.
and then not even a splash screen, Marco, just straight up bang, put it up there.
Ooh,
I'll do it.
upload.
Oh,
Yes.
we should do that for the next one, whenever that's going to be.
Uh-huh.
Like, I start recording, I just literally I drag across like a little screen. Oh, there's a splash screen. Ta-da! And then drag it back.
Yeah.
I have some overlay in OBS. At least I could have had an overlay
Uh-huh.
prepared, but I didn't.
But no, that's fine. There, I'll drop a potential bombshell here at the end of the
Oh,
episode, and that's
ooh.
that I've been interviewing for some jobs in Cape Town, so I may be returning to the Cape Town scene. Mass panic.
Okay, okay. That is. Oh well.
Because
On that
how
bombshell, I'm going to
yeah,
stop the
yeah,
recording right here.
bombshell ending.
See you go down.